Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It is November the 11th, 2020 year. Welcome. Welcome to the Facebook Live on the Present Moment Centered group. November 11th ends up being a really special day here in the US. It is considered Veterans Day. So I wanted to take a moment and actually pay our respects to all the veterans out there, thank them for their service, as well as express our gratitude to all the veterans and their families for the sacrifices that they make to keep us going here, right? The fact that we are having a Zoom session peacefully is all on their shoulders. So thank you. Um, let's get started. So I'm here with our normal panel. We have Kelly, our Qigong teacher, Travis, our musician, as well as a spiritual teacher. Welcome, Travis. And Caesar, who's also a musician and a spiritual teacher, as well as a channel and a medium. Welcome, Caesar. And Eileen, the one with the insights and moving statements, and the one that keeps us going on our Facebook Live. So welcome. So I'll get started with something that Eileen kind of like touched base on right before we started this Facebook Live. One of the questions I would have for the panel is, so somebody asked if everybody is familiar with the fact that Eckhart has the Be the Light course going on, and people end up asking him questions during the Be the Light. And I thought this was a very relevant question, and I'll go into a deeper question after this one question is answered, is uh, what do you all see, the panel sees, and everyone out there, what do you see as the spiritual lesson behind the pandemic? For a year, almost a year, we've been under. So what this person kind of said was they were from UK and they were in Ireland and having a lot of frustration with all the lockdowns. And I think different countries, and we are a global group as well. So people in Australia may be experiencing a different set of lockdowns. In the US, it has lifted, but you never know. Next year, when we have a new president, it may change. We may have some more lockdowns. So what do you all see as the spiritual lesson behind the lockdown and the restrictions, the pandemic, the job losses? So let's get started. Kelly, since you joined first, I'll let you go and then we'll go circle around. Thank you.
Thank you, Poonam. That's both a very big and simple, but also multi-layered question and answer. And where to start? Gosh. See, I'll just keep the first simple in terms of the spiritual lesson. It's always about attachment. It's always about attachment to a perception of a limited reality that we are learning about. That is what the external world is all about. The reflection of the external world. We've all had this idealized reality of what life should look like and why. And here we have this massive event, this global event that is affecting everyone, everywhere, all at the same time. In a lot of ways, I look at this as a global spiritual initiation, because this is something that is causing everyone to look at life in a very, very new way that has never happened before, and to question how to live according to what's in their heart, even with what is going on. This requires a great deal of self-reflection. A lot of people will be frustrated and angry, upset. I know I've been through my range of emotions about this too, because It's the learning process of things suddenly not going in the direction that one was having a strong preference for, or hoping things would go in, you know, continue and be sort of, life would continue on and everything would sort of get back to normal and stuff like that. And here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, we've had a lot of new cases, and we're in a critical lockdown now as of tomorrow. Virtually everything's shutting down for 2, 3, 4 weeks. So my understanding, regardless of what's going on in the outside world, it is always about that spiritual lesson of attachment, ego attachment, attachment to how we view life, why we view life the way that we do, the energy that we put into it, whether or not it's mental, whether or not it's heart-based, whether or not it is, a rigid routine or a rigid projection of our expectations and assumptions about life. These are all moments of initiation. Anytime we have these attachments challenged, especially in such a grand, huge way, it is always about reevaluation of our ego attachment to reality. Now, I'll just keep it to the spiritual lesson, because I come from a political family. I've grown up hearing about all the backstory about literally everything going on in, various regions and, nationally here in Canada. And I got a background in public relations and marketing, so I'm very, very aware of how things are being communicated and why. And I've done my research in terms of certain, agendas that might be out there. Just to put it in a bland, vague way. But spiritual lessons, it's always about attachment. It is always about going beyond the frustration, going beyond the anger, going beyond the emotional stumbling blocks or the emotional barriers and the judgments that come up. And it's really important to look at those spaces and to listen to how we are being triggered and what that feels like, so that we can step back into observation and create space for ourselves to actually come back inside and align with our hearts and observe from a neutral space, from a space of loving kindness. And that's always my discipline. And I have days when, I'm pulled out of alignment, I'm pulled out of my heart, and I want to break something, because it's just like this, this external world just doesn't make, some of the logic, some of the logic that's going on just doesn't make any sense to me. As a policy analyst for 30 years, even, briefing the local government on certain things, and my inside view on how government functions and some of the lack of, supportive, constructive logic is really, really telling. But we can talk about that another day. So anyhow, short answer, spiritual reflection on ego attachment to how life should be.
So what I got out of that was that it is returning every human being to their inner alignment within their beingness. Because if you're in lockdown, you're alone.
You're being forced to spend time with yourself. And the monkey mind does not like that at all. And the irony is that even with the lockdown, the juxtaposition is that you are being forced to spend time with yourself.
So if there was resistance about the lockdown, then that is the resistance of the mind, the thinking mind saying, why is this lockdown happening to me? Not listening to planetary intelligence, because planetary intelligence caused a virus. Nobody out there caused a virus. No human being out there caused the virus. Everything is imbued with consciousness. Even that virus is imbued with consciousness. So planetary intelligence is sending this to us to remind us of something. And if you learn the lesson, then we will survive this. If you don't learn the lesson, we shall see if we're going to learn the lesson, right?
It's kind of like anytime there is a a darkness that arises globally. Like, we could go back to World War II, perfect example, very common knowledge in terms of some of the things that happened in World War II. Anytime darkness arises, it's an education in terms of what we do not want and why we do not want it, and how alignment with our hearts changes our perception and our ability to observe and align with what we do want and do want to create.
As you were speaking, I want to also look up what does Louise L. Hay say about viruses. Travis, if you want to get started, please get started. I'm going to look up what she says is the metaphysical level of what is a virus. Okay, go ahead, Travis.
Sure.
Thank
sure.
you, Kelly.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. I agree with Kelly in that it is layered. There's, I guess, so just to try to start toward the outer layers, there's this greater collective challenge. I think part of it that is probably pretty fair to say, and that I think a lot of us see, is that the planet is alive, and everything that is alive with the planet is all in accord with life, and everything exists and works together in this kind of natural harmony. And as human beings, with, I guess, what you'd call the egoic state, our differentiated sense of self, our concept of who we are, both individually and collectively, I feel like we create it's a false hood, but it's a mentally created state where we're either superior or inferior to something else. We feel a sense of threat. We want to feel a sense of control, and so we live in this way that is out of alignment with life and out of alignment with the earth. And I think for many it seems as though that it's like with the chickens that come home to roost, or it's at a certain point, you make your bed and you lie in it, and you kind of reap what you sow. And so these are the seeds we've been sowing, where we live in a way that's not sustainable. We live in a way that's not harmonious and humble and respectful and honoring of this sacred gem of a planet that we're a part of. And so I think it's bringing that to our attention collectively, that if we want to be able to be here and live here for a longer period of time, then we're going to have to understand what our role is, and just get in the groove and the rhythm and in harmony with everything else. Trees have their role, ants have their role, wolves have their role, human beings have their role. We have a certain responsibility being here, and so part of what our role is as human beings is we're capable of becoming aware of ourselves as life, in a more enlightened, conscious sort of way. And so I think that this is something that's kind of nudging or pushing us in that way. And so part of what happens as far as some of those smaller layers is it brings up not all of our kind of blanket collective challenges, but our individual things inside of ourselves. And I think what it does, at least for me, which I'm very grateful for, I have less avoidance tactics at my disposal. I don't have the same ones that I had before. If I want to avoid facing life, facing myself, I'm going to have to get creative and find new ways to do that. So, but I don't want to do that, of course. And so I think that it, and because people are staying at home, we're either having the mirror of relationship held up very close to us, which is going to show us things that we find ways to avoid looking at ourselves. And we're all very good at that. And that's why relationships are a wonderful teacher and a wonderful gift. If we're able to be in close proximity for extended periods of time with others, where our more difficult things that we haven't looked at or worked out are going to come up, because other people will they'll remind us of those rough edges that we have. And we'll remind them too. So that's fun, because that's just part of life, and life is a little messy, and it's good to be, it's fun being human, it's fun being not perfect. And then for many of us too, we're given the other challenge, not the challenge of relationship, but the challenge of aloneness, and have a lot, or sometimes both, and I think that can be a big one for people too, because a lot of us don't necessarily like being alone. We feel incomplete when we're alone. We feel we don't have other people reaffirming our value to us time and time again. So we have to find our own. I know for me that's been a big part of it for me, is this alone time, and it's been challenging at times, but I'm loving it so much. More and more, I enjoy my own space, my own time. I know that it's such a gift. I know that I won't always have it. I won't always have this much alone time. And so it feels fun to move into a greater a space of acceptance at the challenges that life has put before me. So I think it's just making it a little more difficult for us to avoid looking at things on a massive level and on a personal level. That's the challenge that's there, and it's really a gift, even though it can seem. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to seem insensitive. I'm aware that people are dying, so I don't want to be insensitive to that, and that I've known people who had trouble seeing their mother before she passed because she's in the hospital and they can't go in and out, and it's really painful stuff and really difficult stuff for people, and I don't want to make small of that. But ultimately, I think it just pushes the challenges that are always there a little bit closer, and part of that means that is death and the fleeting nature of life, in the relative sense of life forms, expressions of life that we happen to be. Sometimes our life situations don't urge us to look at how delicate and fragile and fleeting being alive as a human is. Sometimes we're in situations where it's impossible for us to not see that, and this is a little more in that direction. So I guess I'll leave it at that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Travis. So what I'm hearing you say is this is the time that we begin to understand the balance that Earth is, Mother Earth, and all the galaxies and the planets, everything is in a balance. Whether it's a tree, an ant. So learn that rhythm, right? The universe, one verse. That's why we call it universe. So learn of that rhythm. And then as far as aloneness is concerned, so that is an indicator as well, right? That human beings have what I would offer to everyone is to look as a human being, like we live in the US. So what I see of human beings in the US is it's always like everybody's living towards the weekend. Oh, what bar, what happy hour can I go to? What football game can I go to? What basketball game can I go to? What baseball game can I go to? Right? And as you say, there is no more going to a football game, no more going to a basketball game. You have to be alone with yourself, right? Alone in your home with yourself. So that's what the lockdown is doing, and the surrender, right? And you're never alone because you can always step outside into whatever open space you have. Even if you have a small patio, you can step outside and see the sky or the trees, whatever is there available. I know I have a balcony, so I would go out and pace on the balcony up and down, even though it's just 6 feet of area, right? So at least we can see the sky and get some of nature. So soothe yourself with nature. That's what the pandemic is, or the lockdowns are saying, is go alone by yourself into nature. You can always walk outside. Go alone by yourself in nature. Don't ask for very many people. The moment you ask for very many people, the virus comes back and says, did you forget about me? Right? The moment a human being says, and I've heard like a few, I don't listen to the news, the very few that I've seen is weddings. Somebody's been at a wedding or somebody's gone for a vacation, but it's like a 15, 20 people vacation. And then there's an outbreak within that family and people passing away. So give it its respect. This virus is asking for its respect, right? So thank you. Thank you, Travis, for that. So this is what Louise L. Hay says, viral infection is lack of joy flowing through life, bitterness. So 7 billion humans have a lack of joy, and that is reflecting, we caused this virus. So take ownership of that there is lack of joy within us and there's bitterness, right? And that reflects out into the world. Thank you, Travis. And Caesar, let's hear your perspective, sir. Thank you.
Well, I agree very much with what Kelly had said initially, and as well as Travis. And you know, speaking on a planetary level, as far as the energy goes, first and foremost, I think it depends on how people react to what is happening as far as the pandemic goes. Many people seem to be very resistant and resilient of it. They are very upset and angered by the actions being taken to try to combat it a little bit. And on the other hand, there's people who accept it for what it is, and them are the people that I'm seeing turn inwards and take the time to reflect. And I've seen a lot of people helping other people during these past 6 months. So I think this is really totally would call this the shift. I think it is a planetary shift that is happening. Like Kelly said, nothing like this really happened before on this level to this degree. And for the most part, I believe and I feel that people are taking advantage of this time because they're being forced to break routines, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but out of that comes some self-awareness. Sometimes you get it through observing others. I also don't watch the news. I haven't paid too much attention to anything that's been going on. I probably wore a mask into a store 3 times. I know it sounds vulgar, but I've got upper respiratory problems too. So I just try not to pay any attention to it. examples of going to work. I get a lot of phone calls throughout the day or messages through my website or my page. And people are upset. People are getting depressed. People are turning to drugs. People are knowing people that are dying. So many people are experiencing the very hardships of this pandemic. And I think the spiritual lesson ultimately is acceptance. For me, it is, because if you're not accepting what is happening and you are resisting it, we all know what happens. What you resist persists, and what you fight, you strengthen. And that, everything happens within us. Nothing ever happens outside of us. Everything we experience happens within us. And so if you are having these feelings of anger, or many people lost their jobs, lost their businesses, out of touch, like Kelly was saying, or Travis, you can't go see your loved ones when they're in the hospital. People are dying alone, and that's got to be very hurtful for people, to not even go say goodbye to a loved one. And you said surrender as well, and I think it's surrendering to the isness of what is happening. Kelly, wow, having known everything about the politics, that must have had a great opportunity to drive you crazy, huh, Kelly? But yeah, and I try not, like, for instance, when I'm at work, somebody will say, look what's happening, and with the political thing going on right now. And I just don't want to even put my energy to it, because it doesn't make me feel good one way or another. It's not, about a particular candidate or even what's happening. I'm very careful not to put my energy or my focus, my attention, on anything that doesn't feel good. So the spiritual lesson for me is to look for the good in things. I just notice a lot of people being compassionate towards other people, reaching out and helping people. That's a beautiful thing. And hopefully the people that are, I think the Christians call it the way of the cross, when they've had too much to bear, they just kind of turn it over. And that's really acceptance or surrender, is the action that they're taking in order to do that. And that is the time where I believe the shift happens ultimately, where you can, start looking inward and reflecting on what's going on within you, and how you can bring about more, joy and peace and love into your life, and then, turn that outwards and let it affect everybody else. But yeah, so the spiritual lesson indeed is acceptance for me, and just be compassionate, with everybody. Somebody's mentioned, I think Travis mentioned about relationships. That goes both ways, and you've got to have a great relationship with yourself in order to have a great relationship with other people as well. The relationship with yourself is going to determine the relationships that you have with other people. So take this time to learn to love yourself, accept yourself as you are. And if there's little improvements that you feel you can make physically or mentally, spiritually, the universe has always given us science to do that. This is a great time, perfect opportunity to take advantage of that, and take advantage of it. Go for it. And it's not much, but I think it's all of our destinies, all of our journeys. It's part of the divine plan, I think, to seek out what is this life for? Why are we here? I think that's in everybody's, front of their mind, always. And not always, but once that happens, I believe it is a continuation of, following that journey to beautiful things, and wanting to know and figuring out, what brings you peace and joy. So spiritual lesson, again, acceptance. And I just hope and pray that people can take this time and take advantage of what's happening, and learn to love yourself and help others as most you can.
Thank you, Caesar.
Yes.
And that's what I had started off or ended Travis's conversation, that we caused the virus out of our bitterness. Humans have caused the virus. So acceptance is what Eckhart says, accept it as though you chose it. The moment you say, I chose the virus to be caused, a pandemic to be caused, will move us faster into acceptance, right? So accept as if you chose it applies. So I like that out of what you said, that surrender is what it is about. It's acceptance that as though we chose a pandemic to be caused so that we could actually slow ourselves down, right? Because I went to run errands today, and it takes time. You have to think, I have to pick up a mask, I have to get the antibacterial thing. Is it there in my purse? And after I touch everything, I have to wash my hand, right? Then go draw money from the ATM. I touched money, put it away, then wipe my hand again. How much presence? How much? And not to touch the face that you left home, went all the way around and came back, and you did not touch your face, right? How much control and presence. It's unbelievable. It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful that everybody is being asked to be present, right? The pandemic and the virus is forcing every human. The moment your presence goes off and you say, I'm just going to mingle, is when you get infected. For that matter, our president got infected, right? It is ruthless, this virus. It doesn't see, are you rich, you're poor, you're the president of a place, or you're a world leader. No, it's indiscriminate, right? So the moment you lose presence of mind, whose hand did I touch, what object did I touch? The moment you lose that presence of mind, that's when you get infected. So that's another lesson that I see, is a lot of presence is required to move around this world now. Thank you. Eileen, did you want to share something about the pandemic? Or if you want to share Simon's story that you were talking about.
I wasn't even thinking about that at the moment.
Since it was about a lockdown. Thank you.
I'm gonna have to bring that up later because Zoe has the book right now, and I don't remember the exact title, but I know it has lockdown in it. But I will bring that up maybe next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have been thinking a lot about the pandemic, obviously, but and I was trying to jot down a couple of things that have really been like jumping out at me over the last couple of months. And so I just am going to go through that, but I feel like, and I think I just saying this to somebody today, that like, it's almost as if it's showing the need for the evolution of our species, you know, like it's required. It's not something that, you know, we necessarily want, consciously desire, but it's like we do desire, you know, being in a space where we are enlightened, and this is, you know, the way through. But I also think that it's, and I think somebody probably brought this up, is like that collective consciousness, whether it's subconscious or actually, you know, choosing this type of a thing on purpose, I guess you would call it. But I think even when people are resisting subconsciously, that it's like that collective energy is behind it, I guess. I think that probably prior to, and even as we keep having these waves, is the expectations. It's like, I think that's kind of what it's for me first did, was that, you know, drop them. There should be no expectation of anything of any kind. And then like just dropping it. It's not a matter of what should be. It's just be, you know? And so that's kind of what happened first for me, very early on, like probably within a few days, a week, or possibly two tops, where I was like, all right, that's it. I'm done with the expectations. No more. And it was just very freeing. Things are what they are. Which brings up something that I've been saying a lot lately, is just being accepting and grateful for all that is. That's not meaning that I want people to be sick. That doesn't mean that I find pleasure in people being ill, but being grateful for all that is, because it's part of this process of hopefully accelerating the process of, people being more spiritually aware, because we weren't necessarily in a very good place. And so this is kind of like accelerating that alignment, accelerating that evolution, so that it's more spiritual and aware beings and less unconscious. And you're just going to keep getting that lesson over and over and over and over again until you get it. So you just need more people to get it.
That's great. I like the fact that you pointed out that the reason why there's resistance is when we are participating in the collective unconsciousness, then we start to participate with the political dialogue or the resistance. Why should I be at home? I just want to go participate and watch a band, or I want to go participate and watch a football game, whatever it may be, right? Then that is the resistance that's showing up, and then the expectation that I feel humans want to keep repeating their normal routine, and the expectation is, when will I go back to my old normal, where there is no more an old normal. You can never go back to your past. It's going to be a new normal of, this is how you are going to be in a at a public event. There's got to be social distancing. I think it's 18 months to 2 years that they said. And I don't even think if the vaccines are going to be really successful. So thank you for that, Eileen. Those two were really powerful as well.
Yeah, for me, it definitely was an acceleration in my own journey. And I'm extremely grateful for it. Extremely grateful.
So I'll kind of summarize a little bit on what I feel the pandemic is. One, we think that, so we created the pandemic, right? It was the mental virus, the bitterness that created the, okay, now there is a virus. Now what can we do? As Travis said, right? The biodiversity, that's why Eckhart is having the Be the Light course for 8 weeks right now, right at this moment. And I'm positive towards the end of the course, he's going to talk about how we can live consciously. So it's right from, what are you spraying, what herbicide, pesticide are you spraying, to what soap, hand soap are you using, what laundry detergent are you using, what cleaning products are you using, how conscious are you, how much conscientiousness is going into every aspect of what we are doing, including, I think this panel went through 3 or 4 weeks back on nutrition. And when I posted that, some people said, y'all are asking us to be vegan. That was not the point about the whole thing. This pandemic is teaching us, how is your immune system? How are your inflammation markers? How are your biological markers? Can you withstand a virus? Because this virus is not going to be the last virus of this decade. It's just going to get stronger, just like bacteria is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. viruses are going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. Yeah, we'll have a vaccine for the COVID-19. We went from SARS, MERS, COVID for 2002 to the COVID 2019. Now, how many more COVIDs are we going to have, right? It's going to mutate. So the pointer is, and that's what we were discussing, is we were discussing the book Cleanse to Heal, which is actually about eating the way where your immune system is building up. That's what Travis was saying that day. Hydration is important. What you eat is important. Caesar has changed his ways. There are very many people on the group, core group of meditators that have changed, and they are saying, so this is exemplary, like right in front of you. And there are people on the group meditation, your fellow members, that have changed their eating habits, and they see a vast amount of difference. They are able to stave off diseases, illnesses, right? Recover. So just saying, oh, if I'm in presence, I'm going to heal myself is not enough. You have to use nutrient dense food to assist your presence power to heal. So that's the other thing that I took away from this pandemic. And that's why I made the change. I've been making changes this whole year, but then I made a drastic change 2 months ago on the no sugar, no gluten, no dairy, no eggs. If there was something that had eggs, like a vegetable egg roll, no more of those. So drastic change, right? And I see the benefits. I can feel my organs getting stronger. So when you can feel internally that your internal organs are getting stronger, so what is the virus? It'll come, it'll go. Many will come, many bacteria will come and go, mold will come, go. So the best defense is within us. Not your one is your presence power, two is your own physical nutrient dense foods that will help you. Your physical body is what's going to heal you. So that's what I took away from the pandemic. It's teaching us that you cannot be 300 pounds or 400 pounds, right? And eat McDonald's and eat Taco Bell. Since I'm from Texas, I'm always going to bring Taco Bell, Travis. I know you work there. So, okay, to the more serious question about this. So, okay, we have political situations for the past 5-6 years, really serious situations, right? Like North Korea. We had that very dictatorial person in the Philippines. The political situation in the US is what it is. And then on top of that, we have a pandemic going on. We have natural disasters going on. So the effect of all this is, and Summer is the one that wanted me to actually discuss this. I'm hoping Summer is out there listening, but she recently experienced a loss or a suicidal loss of a friend's child who's 20 years old. And she was asking me, why are such young people committing suicide? And that's why I laid the foundation of the pandemic. So the foundation of, there is something about the pandemic that also affects this. So I want all of you to comment on why does a young person at this moment in, let's say, November 10th or November 9th of 2020, think that they need to commit suicide and there's no way out, right? Caesar, do you want to get started on this? Do you have thoughts ready, or you want me to? You ready?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead. Thank you.
I mean, based on what's happening in the world today with the pandemic and all the rules and regulations that are a result of that, I think all the ingredients are there. Isolation being the first one. You know, you mentioned briefly being outside. I don't think people realize the importance of sunshine and fresh air. It's part of our genetic makeup when it comes down to it. But again, all the ingredients for depression is there within the rules of this pandemic. I mean, essentially, it depends on how you look at it, what was prior, going on in your life prior to the pandemic, what your support system is, and things of that nature, would make up, how somebody can get to that point of, taking their life. What could possibly be so bad? I've known a few people that have taken their own lives. And I know some people that, lived through a long period of their lives with suicidal tendencies or thoughts. And the way it's a tough one. Again, it's just going to boil down to a support system. And there's not a whole lot of acceptance in what I have witnessed in people that have actually done that. There was just no sunlight at the end of their tunnel, so to speak, during their dark times, where, I just personally couldn't imagine how somebody can get to that point. I can't say I understand that, I should say. So, but there's always somebody many people care about. Pretty much everybody, there's always somebody that regardless whether they know it or not, there's somebody that's thinking about you, being compassionate about you. And the suicidal thing is it's dear to my heart, and it's a very serious thing. It affects many of people, and I just don't know what would bring somebody vibrationally to actually think that this life is so bad. Trauma after tragedy in somebody's life, I would imagine, could get it there. But that is, to me, things that are just piling up through non-acceptance and resistance along the way. And again, just, to me, I think all the things, the ingredients are there to make up, for depression. And I just don't think people are getting the help they need right now through this whole thing, with the isolation being the first and foremost. The medication, as we know too, doctors just love to prescribe the medication. And I don't believe personally medication is the answer to a lot of what's happening with the, I know a lot of people that are on, mood stabilizers and things like that for mental illness. And I believe, in knowing these people very, very well, that that there would be a better way around that to deal and combat, their mental illness, so to speak. And I'm sure you can all relate to that. But yeah, I would just say the support system would be very essential for them. If anybody's out there listening to this, and just reach out and always talk to somebody. Somebody's people care whether you know it or not. And that's why I always tell people, be careful how you approach and respond to people, because you don't know what they're going through. So that's all I got on that there.
Thank you, Caesar. Your pointer was back to surrender. Be surrendered to the life situation that we are all going under right now. So thank you. Travis, did you want to speak on suicide? Why does a young person feel like they need to commit suicide? They don't see a way out.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a delicate and sensitive and very real question and subject. As I understand it, I don't really know what the numbers are, but that the suicide rates collectively, globally, are up and up in more than before. And I think it's important to look at the where we are in the story of humanity, the chapter that we're on of this story that's playing out, that we're all a part of. I mean, if we think back, 100 years ago, or, you know, I mean, we've become a global culture with the Industrial Revolution, with you know, with flight and airplanes, the technological revolution, and kind of information culture and communication culture and media and mass media and internet. We used to live in more insular, isolated worlds that didn't cross over and meet as much. But so, for the first time ever in you know, known history of life of humans on Earth, we're all very much aware of one another around the world more than ever before. And so, you know, values can kind of just cross over from culture to culture a lot more and a lot more quickly. And there's awareness around one another, just a shared awareness of one another around the world that we never had before. And there have been times in the past where societies have collapsed and crumbled, and then new ages kind of come up and things rebuild. And there are these waves like that. But we're in a unique wave where we're now a global culture. We have media and technology, and I think what's going on is that all of us, and young people included, that we need to know who we are. If we grow up, if we live our lives and we don't know anyone who knows who they are, that's painful, because they can't know us on a deep level. And that's something I see in children when I interact, you know, with kids, and I was a kid, and you can see they want to be met on all these dimensions and aspects and levels of who they are. They want to be seen. We all want that. We're all kids. We're just older, right? We want to be seen. We want to be known. We want to be loved. We want to be witnessed. And a lot of children, they get older, they become adults. They don't know who they are on that essential fundamental level. Most of us don't know ourselves very well. We haven't gotten to know. We don't take time to get to know the subtle depths of who we are, and we're less able to meet one another because of that. And that's the majority of human beings on Earth. And I think that it just seems to get increasingly difficult to not see that, to avoid seeing that, to hide that. When we have weird money worshiping kinds of cultures and all of these like very superficial, very hollow kinds of things, our collective values have devolved. So we're living in a collective state of, even though people have big houses and big cars and brand name clothes or whatever it might be, we're living in a state of poverty. And we don't have real elders. We don't have real wise elders to guide. There's no one to guide the children. Not really, not many older humans who know who they are, who haven't lost the joy of being, who can touch within themselves and share from that place of timeless being and joy and understanding and acceptance and surrender and celebration of life. That's still relatively rare. And so children feel they haven't created as many devices to avoid themselves yet. And they're oftentimes still, they're feeling so much, and it's too much. It's too painful. I mean, I know in ways for me, it's challenging to look around at the world. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm able to find good space around all of it, where I understand it's just a relative reality that exists for a time, but it's a weird world to live in these days. It's increasingly challenging for everybody. So I don't know if that lends to an answer as to why more young people are attempting or committing suicide. But I really feel like if I was going to put an emphasis anywhere, it would really be on the answer. The cure is, and I hope this makes sense when I say it, or maybe not makes sense conceptually, but resonates on a deep level. That I would put the emphasis on knowing exactly who we are. And what I mean by that is the who we are, that when time passes, we won't be any less of that. Because I definitely won't be Travis forever. I won't wear this body forever. And that's absolutely certain. But there is some aspect of who I am, and I'm so grateful when I can see it, when I can touch it, when I can know it in the inner depths of my being. There is a timeless reality that is me. And I think that when we're able to connect with one another on that level, that makes us want to live. That gives us purpose and reason and meaning to live. It gives us something to live for, because it's the ultimate purpose. So I'll leave off there.
So
Thanks.
what I'm hearing you say is it's almost is like the presence did not flow from the parents into the child, or there was nobody around them, whether it was a grandparent, aunt, uncle, where presence flows from that human into the child for the child to know that they matter, that they were
Yeah, on
appreciated,
some level, yeah.
they were recognized, they were the approval, the appreciation, the recognition of that soul was not there, right? So they were null and
Yes.
voided.
Yes.
And then they felt, okay, I'm null and void. Then leave alone that, like you say, since everything is media oriented, global, all we see is everybody's in their pseudo identity online. The happy meal, like Eckhart says, right? Everybody's taking pictures with the happy meal, or at a restaurant, or it's like a pseudo image that we've created. That's not who we really are. What's on Facebook is not who we really are. I'm not talking about I think our spiritual community is a bit different, but normal human beings, it's a pseudo reality that they're living in. They're living in a mental image that needs to be torn down, right? Because they're living with their image of who they are on Facebook or Instagram, on one of the social media sites. So those are the two other drivers of why this could happen, right? Thank you, Travis, for that pointer. Kelly, did you want to add on? I know Caesar and Travis have said quite a bit, so.
Yeah, I've got a few things to say about this.
Sure, thank you.
I come from a family of exceptionally intelligent, creative individuals who constantly have had to deal with not being understood. And, I've had friends and family members who have committed suicide, who have chosen that path. And having grown up and struggled with depression and anxiety in when I was a teenager, it's, I agree with everything that's been said, but it really boils down to despair and victim issues and not understanding what you're on the receiving end of. And also not understanding that you actually have a portion of your personality, your shadow, and your reptilian energy programs that feed off of despair and fear and anxiety and depression. So there are actual programs that people have to deal with and wake up to, that there are spaces of their personalities that foster and support despair and judgment and fear and separation from love and kindness. And this is a real thing, and this is not something that I hear talked about very often. And when I began to understand these aspects, and also the impact, the energetic impact of other people around you who are dealing with depression and anxiety and who are in a very negative space themselves, should not be overlooked. So we can talk about the global consciousness as much as we want, but on a personal level, it has everything to do with the despair, the anxiety, and the self-recrimination and the self-denial that people get stuck in. And these are very real emotional spaces. And when someone's stuck in one of those spaces, spiritual concepts mean very little. Young people, teenagers and 20-something-year-olds, their energy is about exploring and developing their identity. And in a situation that we currently have right now with the lockdowns and the social atmosphere that we have right now, young people are not being allowed to be themselves. And this is the real crux of the matter. Young people are not being able to go out and explore the world and develop their identities according to what's in their hearts. And this is where the despair is coming from. And this is where the sadness and the depths, those black holes of sadness are created, because people feel such strength in their hearts and such passion for something, and they want to go and do it, and there is nothing for them there. So that is why there is a rise in suicides amongst young people, because that energy when you are younger is about going out and having fun, making those stupid decisions, having all those experiences to learn who you are. And in a current climate that we're in right now, it is a complete antithesis. It is a complete opposite of that kind of environment. And there's no support for going out and exploring and connecting with others, learning by building that human community. I mean, we're all social animals. So in the kind of environment that we're in right now, the simple reality of breaking connection, breaking the ability to connect with others can be that traumatizing for some people. And not having the ability to go out and explore and actually like have those visceral physical experiences, like even just walking through a forest or going camping with your friends, or even just going to a movie. There's very simple things of a spiritual nature about communicating and connecting with people face to face that are being completely shut down right now. So it makes perfect sense to me that young people will be struggling right now, and that the despair and the victim issues where they feel like they're being victimized or they're being shackled by the current situation in the world. It makes total sense. And, you know, it's really, really important to understand that the emotional spaces need to be looked at, the mechanisms behind them, the influences, and the lack of support for understanding those emotional spaces need to be understood. And it's through building that kind of self-awareness and that kind of strength is where you get the real kind of resilience, where you can grow as a person and be alone with yourself and not need to connect, right? We are in a society where we are taught that, you know, Poonam, as you're saying, like social media is all about, you know, connection and having this socialization on, but again, it's sort of like this quasi reality where it's both real and fake at the same time. It's both real and an illusion at the same time. We're presenting these images of, you know, the fake positivity, the toxic positivity, which is also affecting people's mental health, because they're pretending that everything is okay. And we also live in a society where we are not okay with people being not okay. We are used to burying everything, whitewashing everything, and not talking about it, not giving space for letting people actually be in their pain and not okay. And to embrace that as an actual aspect of love and spiritual presence. So the despair, yeah, absolutely. Amongst young people, yeah, because young people, I mean, humans, we're all about connection. We're all about that community. We're all about fostering and building that space for evolution and progression and connecting with each other through our hearts and evolving spiritually. And if we do not have that capacity to evolve, especially when that energy is so strong in us when we're younger, to have that, you know, that focus of like, you know, teenage years and in the 20s of building our identity. If that is not being supported, then yeah, there's going to be a lot of people who choose to leave instead of face that pain. My 2 cents.
You're muted, Poonam.
Thank you, Travis. So what I'm hearing is allowing that soul to flower that was not given the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of the darkness of a space where someone is so despairing that they choose to leave instead of stay here is really, you know, yeah, you gotta, you know, young people, you gotta give them support. You gotta give them space to explore and discover who they are. That's what being young is all about.
So that could be a potential cause that maybe the parents had some kind of restriction, and the lockdown and the restrictions of the pandemic already make it that way, right?
Yep.
You cannot travel, you cannot experience life. So thank you. Eileen, I know this topic is very near and dear to you.
It is. We've actually talked about it quite a bit previously in a few other videos. And the connection to me personally. And so I don't know if I should go into that all over again. But I do think that a lot of it is that need to accept and be grateful for everything that is. I just think that that is something that's probably harder for those that are younger to understand. There's many, you know, fully grown adults that still don't get that. Some don't get that even if their last day. And so I think that we need to be, as parents, as community members, we need to be helping with getting that message across, not offering necessarily unsolicited advice or telling them what to do, but role modeling it. You know, it's my biggest thing is just showing others the way, not by saying do this, but more so by showing doing it myself. And so I also think about the conversations that we had in previous videos about like the soul contract that April talks about, because again, it's not something that I am or anybody is happy that it's happened. Like, I'm not saying that someone committing that act is a good thing or that it brings me joy. It doesn't. But accepting it, it's happened. Myself, I have it in my family. It's happened. We've had, you know, failed attempts. We've had ones where that was the next step. And that was the reason for awakening. And so I think just being accepting of it happening is one thing, but that understanding that it's all part of this acceleration to evolving as the species, because that suffering might be what is the factor of awakening in another. You know, that might be what that soul's purpose was. Again, not something that I am suggesting anyone do or makes me happy, because it doesn't. But it happened.
That was one of the points that I was actually going to bring up as soon as Kelly finished, but I waited until you spoke. And that was the exact point that if nobody passes away that did not choose, that soul did not choose to pass away, we have to surrender to planetary intelligence. Again, it would be like what Byron Katie says, right? We are arguing with reality. And if we argue with reality, we will only lose, if only 100% of the time. So if it happened, then that soul chose that path. And like Eileen is saying, and we've discussed this on the panel, that soul and that soul group, like the siblings and the mother and the father, are being offered that grief so that they can use the grief to break open and cause their own spiritual awakening. Now we have to see 5 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, if that actually causes them that spiritual awakening. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the greatest gift that that soul can give the parents and the siblings is that everyone awaken, like Adine is saying, right? Exactly that. That is the reason why.
God.
That was the purpose of that soul, was to cause the grief. Their soul contract with that soul group was that they would pass away and cause the grief. So we acceptance, and then the path that these other souls can take is to spiritually awaken. If they do that expansion, then they've honored that soul that gave up its life to cause the grief, right? If not, they have another lifetime. Like, this is a cyclical.
I was just getting ready to say. It's like it's just gonna keep coming. Eventually it'll happen. It's just how many times do you have to get that lesson?
They will move towards unconditional love. So can we change anything about the planet, will be my next question. But the other aspect, since I've been talking about nutrition and nutrient dense foods, the other thing I read about in Cleanse to Heal, PTSD, anxiety, and depression is caused by heavy metal toxins in the body. And as we've gone through industrial revolution, exposure to herbicides and pesticides and heavy metal toxins and perfumes, right? Colognes and those all weaken the human body. So think that 200 years ago, maybe our great grandfather was using mercury, or they were using alkaloids, right? Mercury in there as a medication. And then now we are like the 10th generation or something, born with the same, generationally, we've been handed it down. The dehydration, the toxins in our body. So to cleanse our toxins is the biggest thing that they could have done. Like if the parents want to see what could they have done, they can see, hey, can I cleanse my child's body, right? Offer them all the supplements and offer them all the diet that'll help them cleanse the heavy metals from their body. and that will probably assist from that depression. Like what Caesar said is sunlight. So if you don't realize, like a lot of uh, the meal plan is about eating green leafy vegetables, right? Like you take a whole bunch of spinach and blend it with tomatoes and whatever the recipe is, celery or whatever it is. But look at what you're doing. You're taking a green leaf that was exposed to the sun. So you're putting sun, yeah, you may not have gone outside, but at least you're putting sunlight in your body through the green leaf, right? So that is, I would strongly, strongly recommend, no matter what your illness, right? So this is what I would say. To give an example, if Eckhart talks about being in presence, right? Presence is like, you can be completely, think of your consciousness as a dimmer switch. You can be full on bright light, just like Eckhart, luminous crystalline essence, right? Or you can turn the dimmer switch all the way down to where you're just flickering in and out, in and out. Like there's light sometime. I don't know if y'all have seen Chronic Energy, is what Caesar says. 1 minute you're seeing the light above me is like that. Like when I turn down the dimmer switch, sometimes it lights up, sometimes it blinks off, and sometimes it lights up. So what is your life force right now in this very present moment? Are you like that dimmer switch where life is coming in, then it goes off, life is coming in, it goes off? Or are you full on your dimmer switch where you're bright, like you're full of joy? Like look at Caesar and look at Travis. I mean, look at the joy that Travis had over the weekend. I wanted to respond to that post, but full on joy. Are you full on joy? And that's what the virus thing topic that we started, right? The human beings that are, their dimmer switch is not full on, right? And these children are that way. Their dimmer switch is, the light is just coming through, like little light is coming through. They're not like full on bright crystalline beings right now. And all we need to do is to move them full on, use diet, introduce them to meditation, introduce them to going out in nature, right? Sunlight on your body, and always remind them that social media, that's not the real world, child. The real world is you and me spending time with each other, as Travis says, right? So the other part to that I can say is the guilt that the mother or father can have, right? What could I have done different? Or anybody around them would have. We didn't have questions today, Eileen? Sorry.
We don't have any questions yet, but I do have 2 things written down that need to be mentioned based on
Okay.
something you said before.
Go ahead.
Samar is not here this evening because she's at the funeral services, but she's going to watch
Okay.
after.
Okay.
And then Simon did reach out to me, and so he gave me the title of the book, and I have like a little summary of it so that I can share.
Go ahead.
It's
Go
on
ahead,
the topic of the pandemic, so I figure
Yes.
it's probably
Okay.
best to share tonight.
Go
And
ahead.
then I'll put the information in the
Perfect. Thank
in the
you.
comments of the post. So Simon Davies is a member of our group, and during the lockdown in the spring had written a children's book about the lockdown and mindfulness. And so it's a fiction story. Actually just sent a copy to my daughter with magical creatures. It's like a chapter book. But it does have a level of the book that is introducing practical concepts that help the main character with worry and negative self-talk. And it says it's a great way to introduce simple mindfulness. So it's titled Heikki's Adventures in Lockdown, Losing My Mind. So I'll put the information in the comments. My daughter read a couple chapters tonight. She's very excited.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Eileen.
No problem. I don't see any questions. There's tons of comments tonight, but I don't see any questions at the moment. Lots of gratitude. Love that.
All I can say is like we do have an incredibly amazing group. I know the core group of meditators, it's like along with this panel, right? Like, so the people that attend the Facebook Live Q&A also mostly are the core group of meditators and additional people. And it's like total preciousness, like to just be a part of all of you. Like, I know Lakshmi will be there out there. Gracie will be out there. Gracie's another person that's used functional medicine to heal herself. So it's like incredibly amazing, so humbling. Like the joy of coming in on Wednesdays or starting the Facebook, the Zoom group meditation on Fridays or Sundays is like, so we have Tove that's in Istanbul, of all places. She attends the Sunday meditation, which is more, and you can just feel like their energy, like so beautiful, so precious. So it's very humbling. So my question was, would now the parent is going to go, what could I have done different, right? Now my 20-year-old child has passed away. What could I have done different? Maybe there is guilt, right? So I'll start off with you, Kelly. Could anything have been done different? Or should we even be dwelling on, could anything have been done different? So thank you.
Short answer is not to dwell. Dwelling on the pain, dwelling on the what ifs, just causes more pain, and supports staying attached to the pain. And that lets the monkey mind begin to wrap that into your personal identity without being able to see beyond it. In my experience, having had friends who've chosen this type of passing to commit suicide, to end their lives, in the end, it's always been about not dwelling on their pain, not dwelling on what could have been, but just accepting that that is what is and what has come to pass. It's never, any, it's not a very consoling, type of decision. The pain of losing someone that you love is something that, the parents, the friends, family have to go through. And, I really like what was being said earlier about how the grief and the sadness is also a gift, because a lot of times people do not understand how to actually access those spaces inside of themselves to let go of their own pain or their own attachment to their grief from something that had happened in the past. And losing someone that you love is, well, yeah, it's a really amazing gift, because it will bring up an awful lot of pain and despair and things that we haven't wanted to look at, and will open up the door to looking deeper inside, even for a brief moment. Even those small little moments are priceless and invaluable to letting ourselves feel those deep wells of sorrow that we've hidden from ourselves, so that they can come up. And the gift, because I remember when my grandparents died, I was really, really close to all four of my grandparents. I was exceptionally blessed to grow up and be able to spend an incredible amount of time around all four of my grandparents. And losing them, or when they chose to pass, those events brought up incredible depths of sorrow that I had never had an opportunity to access or process before. And so when they passed, I had these incredible moments of just, literally feeling like I was losing my mind, because I had so much emotion come up. I had just so much move through me so fast. And at the end, I knew I was not the same person that I was, a day or 4 days earlier, because I'd had so much clear out of my system from allowing myself to feel. So the short answer is, if possible, do not dwell. If you find yourself dwelling on the pain, then embrace that space as well, and let yourself feel, and let yourself grieve, and let yourself allow yourself to have everything move through you in whichever way it's going to happen.
And if possible, join Kelly's Qigong class so that you can learn how to process the emotion, give it space, right?
Yes.
Because that's what is needed.
Yeah, and it is something that Qigong has been an incredibly profound blessing in my life for.
I posted I think Kim Ing did a little video on the pain body, and she had this analogy. So I use the analogy of the dimmer switch, right? That your dimmer switch is turned on all bright. So she used the analogy of having a flute or a bamboo, and it's filled with kidney beans. All our pain is kidney beans, right? And then you're blowing through it, and what music? You're blowing in it, and the music is not coming out at all because it's full of kidney beans, right? So learn to dissolve the kidney bean, because you can easily take this and turn it into a victim story. And
Yep.
then you're back in your mind, which is what your kid was, back in their mind, attached to their mental image of who they thought they were, this depressed human being, right? Their despair, and I can't do anything, I'm a loser, and everybody thinks I'm a loser, and now I'm addicted to drugs, and the aspersions of the society on, oh, now you're addicted, you're an addict, right? So the hatred that comes with that. So thank you. Caesar, you want to speak on what should the mother or father, parents, and the family do now that they have a young kid pass away? Thank you.
Well, the what ifs definitely don't need to be discussed. That's for sure, because that brings about the same type of mindset that enabled their kid to take himself in the first place. So I think the lesson for them would be to, well, not the lesson, I think the action I would think would be to, spread awareness of the mental illness, about depression, telling their story, perhaps reaching out to other families, just spreading the awareness of it, so others can learn. And maybe you might not have to see so many people go through that, being an advocate for it, reaching out and making a difference to somebody else. It almost becomes your mission. I remember when my grandmother passed of cancer, my mother went, on this mission for years, raising money for cancer, to give back. And that was her way of maybe healing herself as well, helping others to help herself, I guess. So, and it makes sense, out of that comes a lot of compassion, I think, because if you let something like that beat you down, and then again, like you said, you take on the victim mentality of it, and that's not really benefiting, or that's not a good way to honor, your loved one who passed, is by becoming, that dark soul that perhaps they were. You want to be able to honor, your loved one in a particular way, that of compassion and love, and reach out to help others. I believe, I think that's the best way, perhaps, to move on and hold the torch, and it's a good way to honor them and heal yourself as well, and also take a look inside, because that's got to be depressing. I couldn't imagine losing a child. It's got to be the utmost worst pain. I heard it is, and I'm sure it is. By all stretch of the imagination, I couldn't imagine anything worse than that. But yeah, just to be able to heal even yourself after losing a child, I think is very, very vital to carry on and have any good quality of life within. So you can either take the high road in that, through acceptance and surrender, and possibly helping others to help yourself, and live a meaningful life now with purpose that you may not have thought you had prior, or you can be the victim of a tragedy that can haunt you forever. And I think at that point, the quality of life would be very bleak. But I would hope that people would want to heal and reach out and help other families, perhaps, and about awareness, perhaps. But that's it.
I like that idea, Caesar, that what the mother could do or the father could do is actually be of service in an organization that is saving other kids from their suicide and depression, and be a mother and father to that kid, or brother, sister to that kid, right? Because we seem to think only our biological children are our children. No, this whole planet has children. If you saved another 2 or 3 lives, look, then your
Honor.
son lived through and saved those 3, 4 lives, right? If you could mother the other kids properly, or father the other kids properly, or be a brotherly figure to the other kids properly, then you've saved the lives. So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that tip. Travis, did you want to speak to what can the could have, would have been done different? Is
Mhm.
there any different?
Well, I guess I'll start with what's just coming up for me is just that because what I'm noticing is a kind of a thread or a theme running through all of these topics and questions that have come up tonight. It at least to me, it looks as though we're looking at how to live appropriately in the relative world, in the time-bound world that we all share this existence together. And as best I can tell, events that have already transpired, we can't change them. So to go back and go, I could have done this, I could have done that, it seems like an exercise in futility, and could be destructive and just create more negative emotion. I think if we could, but we can always ask what we can do now. That's the only, because we can't do anything in the future either. We can, if we're going to do anything about anything, we can only do it right now. It's the only useful moment. So just to remember that simple but powerful truth, that if we, and so what to do now, that's going to look different from person to person in this moment, whatever, moment to moment, however you want to look at it or say it, but it is always this moment, right? So my most honest assessment of all of this is that how a person comes to know what the most appropriate and effective action that or words or ways that they could focus their attention that is going to come to us is is through our ability to recognize and resonate with and be with, I don't know a better way to say it than that timeless dimension of life. The subtle, almost indiscernible, right? It's very subtle aspect of life, of who we are, that does not change in time. The more that we can be in touch with that, the better able we will be to, again, act appropriately and effectively and spontaneously in any given situation. So, and it helps us, it's the one common thread that runs through the very center of all of us. It's what makes us one, is that timeless, undifferentiated source or core that we all share. If we all follow ourselves back to the beginning of who we are, if we try to trace back to our origin, we'll find that place where we all meet as one. And so it's from there that the answers will come to us. What I was going to say about it is that when we're able to recognize that unifying, unchanging thread that runs through all of life's expressions, we're all gems on that necklace. There's that string runs through all of us, through every blade of grass, through every star in the sky, through every human being. When we can recognize that, that's how we get in touch with our humanness, our humanity. And that's what's going to inform what we do. So we'll be better able to look after those of us who are still alive, who are still here, and care for one another in ways that are appropriate. And so I feel like that's going to be my answer to everything tonight, is that very, very subtle, almost indiscernible, but endlessly powerful and unwavering light and truth of who we all are underneath it all. If we can let some portion of our attention rest upon that, then everything that we need will be given to us when we need it. We'll find the answers. We'll find the right things to do, the right things to say, and be able to love one another, and be there for one another in hard times. And it'll probably bring about more not hard times, which I like. I take them where I can get them, because life is full of challenges, and we've been talking about a lot of really difficult stuff. So I just want to end my share on a lighter note of, there is so much to celebrate. There's so much to rejoice in, even in the midst of all of these immense challenges that we share. And I'd like to bring a little bit of attention to that too. So that's what I have to say.
When you were speaking, what popped in my head was, Oprah, I don't know if it was because of Seed of the Soul or one of the books, she interviewed Gary Zukav in her setting of an audience, right? And in the audience was this mother who had twins born, but one of the twins passed away at 12 days or 18-day-old baby passed away, and they called it baby Ryan, right? So in a very sweet voice, Gary Zukav tells the mother, So the mother, of course, is in her victim identity, right? Oh, what could I have done different? Why did one pass away? Or so this is what Gary Zukov says. Every time, so let's say the other son's name was Colin, and this was baby Ryan. So he says, if Colin were to go to high school prom, every time you see him dance, you're going to go, Ryan would have gone to the dance with Colin. If he would go get graduated from college, you always say, "Oh, Ryan would be graduating from college, but he no longer is able to." So you will apply that grief over and over again to the other son, right? Instead of honoring the soul that for 12 days this soul came into your life and gave you the gift of motherhood. And that this is exactly what I told Summer, right? That a 20-year-old gave the gift of motherhood to this mother. You have to celebrate that life. There's no other way than, other than celebrating that life, there's nothing else to be done. Everything else will take you down the path of victimhood, right? And then you're no longer celebrating that beautiful life that it was, right?
It makes me think of I know Eckhart Tolle mentions it a lot, of that first line in A Course in Miracles in the front of the book, and he says, if you can understand this, you don't need to read the book. And it says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Perfect.
And it's such a profoundly deep truth. It's really I think it's very challenging to a lot of us. But what you're saying reminds me of that there's some, I don't know, there's some heart there. There's some part that can't be harmed. And when we can find that, and that's what's crazy, is that when we're faced with extreme challenges like the loss of a child, I think if you can't find that, I mean, you're probably kind of screwed. I mean, you're almost forced to find the core message in life, the most valuable thing that anybody could ever stumble upon. Because if you don't, it's going to be so hard without that, you know, when we're faced with extremely painful loss and stuff like that. So to find that place that can't be harmed, what a gift if we're able to find that.
Where nothing real can be threatened.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Eileen, you want to wrap this up?
Sure.
Thank you.
One thing that I forgot to mention at the end of the last conversation was hope, I guess is what I'm thinking. So we were talking about why, you know, the suicides are happening, but like I kind of gave my answer, but then afterwards, like, popped into my head that like those acts, those events, those, you know, traumas can be, you know, a gift, because like in my specific case, they led to, you know, not only my healing, but the healing of my own children. And so, and probably even the healing of the others, you know, like the ones that came before. And so I feel like in that act against something, not that that's not good or happy, but that not in labeling it, that there is hope for healing and progress. And then as far as what we were just speaking of now, I think that comes in then too. You have that ability to help and heal others, yourself healing through that gift, but then the ability to heal others, I think is key, whether it be, like you mentioned, helping other children or those that are, thinking of suicide, and then helping not only with the healing, but that process of awakening. But that's it.
Perfect. So you give an example of what actually happens after the event has happened and what one can do to break open and use the most traumatic event of your life and turn it into something that is so positive and actually brings a spiritual awakening in
Absolutely.
your path. And not only are you spiritually awakening, it's like generational healing, right? All of us, I feel, that are here or are online right now, are in the group meditation. There is a core group of very seasoned practitioners in this group. And I'm thinking that they're taking everybody else along with them. That is the preciousness, right? That all of you are actually breaking these patterns, breaking these collective conditioning, right? And that's why we are here, is keep spreading the light. More than the darkness, we are going to bring in the light. So the luminous crystalline stardust being that I see here, out there, I see them, meet them during group meditation every week, every alternate week across the globe. So this planet is going to only change with the loving kindness, the loving awareness, the compassion, empathy, humility that we are bringing, the gratitude that we are bringing, and we are already on the track. I can see it in everyone. So I'm deeply humbled. It's beautiful. Infinite blessings to everyone, and blessings to everyone out there as well. We will meet again. Oh, I wanted to ask everyone this one question. So should we actually, next time I want to try a live Q&A, like maybe we can post the link to this Zoom if anybody wants to come on live and ask the question. What do y'all think? That would be more interactive, right? Kelly says thumbs up. Okay, let's try that next time. And it'll actually be in the other group, so it'll be a larger audience, I think. So we're gonna have live Q&A. People can join us. What?
Cool.
Cool, right? Yes. So it'll be more interactive, right? Like right now, it's like a virtual somebody out there. At least we have everyone here, but there's a virtual somebody out there. They can come on live. If they have a real question, they can come on live and then drop off from ask the question and then drop off whoever wants to join. So let's give that a try, Eileen, next time. Link to this WebEx or Zoom. Thank you. Have a good night.
Hey.
Blessings.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Kelly, bye, Travis. Bye, Poon, and blessings.
Bye, Caesar. Bye, Kelly.
Bye.
Bye, Eileen. Bye, Travis.
Bye, Eileen.